X Factors are back again in NHL 23, and in this video, we are going to go over the best and worst X Factors for this year's game. By the end of the video, you guys are going to know the ones that you want to go after, the ones to target, and the ones that you can completely avoid. I'll also touch on the overall outlook of X Factors and what I would recommend doing with them as the game goes along. I want to start out by saying I really don't think any of the X Factors are worth it outside of maybe one or two, and I'll explain why in the video. But if you've been following along for the last year, they just haven't returned the value because of the cost to upgrade them throughout the year. I want to be very clear here though. They are some of the most fun cards to use at launch of the game, and unless you are someone that is going to grind all year round for Team of the Year, Team of the Season, you could go ahead and use some of the X Factors because it isn't really going to break your bank. And as always, guys, try out the cards and players that you like. This is merely just a guide for anyone that is looking for some info on what the most effective X Factor cards are. If you guys enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe for the most up-to-date news, tips, and info for NHL 23's Hockey Ultimate Team. And don't forget to check me out live on Twitch, twitch.tv/nosleeves12 every single day at noon Eastern Time. All right, let's get into it. All right, guys, so the main difference for NHL 23's X Factor cards is that there is just a lot less of them. This year, there is only 32 player items that are actually going to receive X Factor cards in-game. That is down from the 50 that we had in NHL 22, and they did change in terms of the cost to upgrade a little bit. We've seen an adjustment. It does look like there are less tiers to actually go and spend coins and collectibles on, but it appears roughly the same value to upgrade. Now, if you've watched my videos for NHL 22, X Factors are a pretty bad investment. If you were going to play the game all year round, I would almost avoid X Factors entirely. Now, there are ways to get free X Factors. I'm going to show you how to do that. And you should definitely take advantage of that, because if you do get some free X Factors and maybe you pull a couple of untradeable power-up collectibles, you can have a pretty decent card that doesn't cost you anything at all. All right, so let's start with the F-tier X Factor cards. I'm so sad. Alexander Barkov is still one of the worst X Factor cards in Hockey Ultimate Team, and they did try to help alleviate some of the issues with this card. It's just his skating. He is one of apparently the worst skaters in the NHL, and his X Factor card reflects it. He does have a skating synergy. The synergies have changed up a little bit. You will notice that Distributor no longer has +2 to speed, but Wingman and Fly the Zone do, as well as Buzzing, you'll get a +1. So let's assume that you can get these skating synergies on these cards, as well as Thief. You've got a pretty well-rounded centerman. Yoink, however, in the current state of the game, is an automatic penalty no matter what. Stick lifts in this game, as at the time of this recording, are an automatic penalty even if you are in position, so that pretty much wipes out the usefulness of this zone ability. Puck on a String helps with toe dragging and stick handling speed. Again, this is one of the more useless abilities that you can have. Now let's talk about his attributes. He's got 87 speed, and at launch of the game, that's pretty good. But why he is an F-tier X Factor card? Well, there's a couple things. He does only have 82 body checking, even though he is pretty decent in size. It's the cost that you're going to have to invest to actually keep upgrading this card. So let's pretend that you've got Alexander Barkov's X Factor card, and you want to go ahead and upgrade him. 500 coins to get to Tier 1. You're looking at 3750 to get to Tier 3. That'd be 82 overall. And then it jumps up to 1 power-up collectible or 20,000 coins, and then it's 65,000 coins or his base card. It is then only going to go up and cost more as you get higher, and because skating only goes up by 0.5 every tier, this is why Alexander Barkov's card is one of the worst X Factors, and it's just simply because it is going to take until he gets to 99, essentially, for his skating to catch up to everyone else's, and the cost, because he is so high rated out of the gate, it's just going to be extremely expensive. So he is an F tier once again. And his now teammate, again, in the F tier, it's the MATHEW KACHUK 86 overall X Factor card. He does not have a skating synergy, so he is stuck at 86 overall in terms of acceleration and speed. And again, at launch of the game, this isn't all that bad. It's tricky, however. While it only costs 2 ability points, if you are someone that is trying to focus on doing between the leg shots, all the power to you. But if you're trying to play online or even in squad battles, I don't know how often you're ever going to get in a position where this is actually useful. His shot is fine, his hands are fine, and defensively he's okay. He's 6'2", which is great size, but he's got 61 on the draw, meaning that he is a pure winger. Again, unfortunately, because of his skating, it is going to just cost way too much to get him up there, and his skating will never match the field. Continuing in the F tier, we've got our first goaltender, a new one. We've got Jacob Markstrom, 6'6", very good goaltender in game. game. He comes with Last Stand, which again is very, very situational, and Dialed In, which will give you a boost in reaction time, recovery, and save ability after 15 saves in a game. The only time you're going to see those kind of save numbers is if the guy is getting across the blue line and just flicking up. And hey, you might see that a lot, but nonetheless, it isn't something that I think is worth activating. His attributes are okay, and his base card is going to be good. This card is not a bad card, but again, it is the cost for a goaltender, and if you followed my channel for a couple years, goalies will not save you. They will not make you a better player. Every once in a while, they will bail you out, but your defense and offense are going to be what dictates how good of a goaltender you have. There is no point in wasting the amount of collectibles and coins for Jacob Markstrom. Another new goaltender, the 87 overall Igor Shesterkin with silver post-to-post and butterfly effect. The reason why he's in the F tier is, again, just simply because of cost, and he's not exceptional in terms of his size at 6'1". This is still going to be a decent goaltender, but again, it's the cost to get a goaltender when you could spend these resources on a forward or defenseman, which are going to infinitely affect the game and your outcome that much more. I'm also going to say this pretty early on, guys. I will never give my input on gameplay and abilities, any of that ever again. If you watched my channel last year, you know the debacle that happened. Post to post, not really all that useful in this game because of how good goalies are at stopping the cross-ice one-timer. Early on, you're going to see, because of the new human animations that they've put into the goaltenders, you're stopping and robbing almost everyone on the back door, making post-to-post kind of pointless. So for that, he is in the F tier. Also in the F tier is the 87 overall Hilary Knight. Now, this card is actually pretty solid all the way around. The reason that she's in the F tier is the cost, simply. At 90,000 coins, because she's an 87 overall. To get up there is just very expensive. Off the rush does not trigger all the time when you would expect it to. However, the skating is great. All of the attributes are pretty good, except for the shot power. Like I mentioned, guys, the shot power, when you use it, you will notice it. One-timers are like muffins, especially from defensemen. They just do not get to the goalie fast enough. And unless that changes or there's a drastic bump from the women cards in terms of the shot power, I think you're going to notice it a lot. And while I think that all the other attributes are pretty useful, it's the cost that puts her in the F tier. It's just so expensive. But her size even is 5'11", 172. That's basically Mitch Marner. So nothing really wrong with that. It's just that shot power and the cost on Hilary Knight. And then the last card in the F tier is the cover athlete, the 87 overall Sarah Nurse. Again, at launch of the game, this is going to be a half-decent card. Her gold relentless ability, I have played about 50 games of squad battles and challenges and rivals during the tech test. I have seen this actually be used twice. It does just not trigger all that often, meaning that you're just never going to need to use it. Unstoppable Force, however, is a very good ability, but she doesn't have a skating synergy, meaning that she's at 88 acceleration and 89 speed. She can get +1 to the acceleration with Distributor activated. All of her attributes are pretty good. 90 body checking, she's great at on the draws, at 89 on the faceoffs. Even defensively, 92 defensive awareness and 92 stick checking. The issue is, guys, with a lot of the female cards in the game, 79 shot power. I have been trying defensemen and some of the other women cards just to see, because the accuracy, I was kind of curious to see if it would be a little bit more useful because it is higher. When you go to take a one-timer with these cards, it is a muffin every time, and it is really hindering the usefulness of all of the other attributes. So for that reason, she's in the F tier. All right, kicking off the C tier for X Factors, we've got the 83 SHEA THEODORE. I've been trying this card out a little bit, not as full X Factor, but just the base version of it, the 74. The reason why I think he's in the C tier is because if you got this specifically, let's say you got it untradeable like I did, maybe out of your starter pack team, 6'2" left-handed defenseman, if you get Fly the Zone activating, having 87 speed, the cost is so cheap to get him up to this. I wouldn't recommend continuing to upgrade this card, maybe a few more, because again, you haven't reached the point where it's actually expensive. And if he gets another speed boost, let's say at 84 or 85 overall, then you're in business, because that's a kind of a useful card. But again, because that skating is a little bit lower, it's always going to cost quite a bit, and I think the trade-off there is to just avoid X Factors in that sense. Heat Seeker, I haven't really found it all that useful, but I have been taking more wrist shots from the point for tips on net, and I have found that effective. This was all around just a half-decent card, and again, this is all due to the cost of it early on. Next, we've got Mitch Marner. This one is because of just my personal use of him over the years, and in this game specifically. I got to try out the Mitch Marner card in another build, and while he always has good attributes, 92 acceleration, for example, you can choose to go with the speed option, and then he's got 90 acceleration, 90 speed. His shot is okay. His hand stats are above 90, and defensively, he's not bad as well. Third eye I want to touch on, much like post-to-post, because of the changes to NHL 23, the pass assist model being turned back on almost wipes out the usefulness of passing zone abilities. Passing is very easy again in NHL 23, and it just doesn't really give you that added benefit to actually go ahead and use these zone abilities when you've got a team full of them. Again, early on, this is a very good card. The one thing that I've always had an issue with Mitch Marner cards is he gets bumped off the puck so easily. At 172 in terms of his weight, he just seems to get thrown around, and I've tried it again this year, and it's just more of the same. So this one is more of a personal thing. I just have never really liked the feel of his cards, but that's why he lands in the C tier. Now, on top of that, again, being at 86 overall means he is kind of expensive out of the gate. Following him, we've got Jonathan Huberdeau of the Calgary Flames. A little bit better than prior years. His skating starts out at 89 right off the rip, and if he does get a skating synergy as he goes along, again, makes him a little bit more useful. This card reminds me a little bit of Sidney Crosby, where he's not great at anything, but he's good at everything. Again, tape to tape, I just don't see you guys having to use this ability and getting a lot out of it this year because of the pass assist being back on. This is a very good card. The other issue is that he's only got 68 on the draw, meaning that he is a pure left-handed winger, and there's a few left-winger options I would rather have than Jonathan Huberdeau. He's also, again, an 86, so he's going to cost you a little bit to get up to that rate out of the gate, and I don't know if I would recommend that. Kyle Connor is up next from the Winnipeg Jets. He is back at yet again the 86 overall version at launch of the game. Does have gold wheels and make it snappy. Wheels is a very good zone ability, especially early on and really all the way throughout the year. The reason why it is so impactful, guys, is it removes the debuff when you are carrying the puck. When you have the puck on your stick, your player skates, his speed stat specifically goes down 3%. With wheels, you don't have that, so whatever his speed is, that is the true attribute that you are going to get when carrying the puck. The issue is that his speed isn't all that crazy. It's only 88 overall. He doesn't have a skating synergy just yet, other than acceleration, which is nice. I just think that because he's an 86, just not a lot of value there. Like, I think there's some other stronger options that you could use. Still a very good card. All right, next up in the C tier, we've got the 87 overall Kendall Coyne Schofield. Now, the reason why I have her in the C tier is because she is the fastest player in the game that isn't Connor McDavid, essentially. She's the best skater at 5'5", 126. The wind will knock her over in game, but because at launch of the game, you are going to just absolutely fly all over the place, and defensemen and bigger players haven't caught up, and their skating is so much lower. You combine that with wheels and elite edges. This is one of the most fun cards to use as well. I tried it out in an earlier build. A big issue, again, is that shot power, though. You can, however, pick the far side, and because of her skating, you're able to get into those open spaces pretty easily. I still don't think I would recommend upgrading her. She's got 90,000 coin as a cost because she is an 87, but again, this is still a really fun card early on. Also in the C tier is the 88 ANDREI Vasilevsky. This is the best goaltender I've seen so far. It's the cost again. Because he's up to an 88, that's 100,000 coins of the base, but it's getting there. 3 power-up collectibles are 65,000 coins, and then another 20 on top of that. You are just looking at an exceptional amount of coins that you don't really need to spend. He doesn't have post-to-post, but again, I don't think post-to-post is absolutely necessary in NHL 23, but still an extremely good goaltender. The reason why he's in the C is because if you are Hut rich, this could be your goalie for essentially the entire year, and we'll have to wait and see between him and Shesterkin, but he might win Team of the Year. So Marie-Philippe Poulin is in the C tier as well. Again, a little bit smaller at 5'6", 161. The cost is exceptional, but the attributes are pretty strong. Born leader, the shot is very good, 92 speed, 91 acceleration. You can play her at center with 89 on the draw, 90 body checking. It's just a fun card again, but the cost is just way too high. But all around, card, it's not bad. And again, early on in the game, you don't need to worry about size being everything because the bigger players haven't caught up in terms of skating. And then last in the C tier is the 87 Leon Draisaitl. Again, kind of a disappointing card every year because of his skating. This one isn't bad though because he does have a skating boost synergy. You can get fly the zone, so he would have 89 speed, 87 acceleration, has magician as well, as you can get his agility up. Tape to tape is pointless. Big rig, however, is pretty useful. And then the ability to play him at center with 82 on the faceoffs. But again, the shot is great. 81 body checking, even though he's got good size. There are far better centers, I think, and because he's an 87 overall, you're looking at an expensive upgrade cost tree, and again, speed only goes up by 0.5, guys, so it is going to be a while before he is a very good skater. All right, guys, on to the B tier for this year's X Factors. We've got the 87 Alexander Ovechkin. Now, launch of NHL 22, his card was brutal. He couldn't move, but then he got a skating synergy, and he was one of the better right-handed wingers in the game for a couple months. He will get a lot of boosts if he gets any, if he breaks any milestones, things like that on his chase to get to the goal record. The reason why I think he is in the B tier, his cost is high, is because his shot just goes in a ton. You're able to pick the corners extremely well in this game, and for cards that have over 90 slap shot accuracy and rip shot accuracy at launch of the game are very, very useful. You combine that with Unstoppable Force, which is one of the best superstar abilities. 1T, I've talked about this, is one of the best abilities you can get in the game, but more so for defensemen. But even still, when you've just started, you can get this in your lineup because you don't have a ton of cards that have actual abilities. His skating is, again, a little bit to be desired. 88 acceleration. You could also go the speed route, so you could have 88 speed. Body checking is great. It's in the high 80s, and defensively, he's okay, but at 6'3", he can absolutely knock everyone off the puck. If you pair him with someone fast in the middle or on the left-handed side wing, you're in business here. It is very, very expensive, though. That's why he's in the B tier. Next in the B tier is David Pastrnak. And at first glance, this looks like a slam dunk automatic pick early on. Fantastic value card, which is what I thought. He gets fly the zone, meaning that he can have 92 speed, 90 acceleration. He's only 85 overall, meaning he's on the cheaper end of the upgrade tree early on at the start of the game. Schneip in NHL 22 was kind of hit or miss. There wasn't really any way to quantify it. Ankle breaker, I'm not a big fan of it. Here is the issue when you take a look at his card. Peep that agility, guys. 81 overall. That means he is going to turn and make cuts like he's a 6'7" defensive defense. I don't know if this is an error, and maybe at the time of this recording, it will be adjusted. His shot is great. Everything else is phenomenal. But David Pastrnak is literally one direction, and that is straight down the boards, which has its usefulness. But I just can't for the life of me figure out how one of the better players in the NHL has the turning radius of Zdeno Chara. So that is why he is in the B tier. I think he still has some value because you can literally just beeline down the boards with someone who's got 90 shot accuracy, and the cost is so good. But man, I don't know what they were doing here with Pastrnak. John Carlson is up next, and a really strong option early on because of the fact it's very hard to find useful defensemen that have skating, shot, and defensive ability and size. It is very hard to find all four of those things. He comes with a skating synergy. You could go acceleration or speed. He is not fast, so don't get me wrong there, but his shot is very good at 89 power, 82 accuracy. Again, most of even the high-end defensemen, even like Victor Hedman, his accuracy is in the 70s, so keep that in mind. He's got good defensive awareness. I'm not really sold on his abilities at all, but because it's so cheap, $40,000 to get him to 85, that's why he's in the B tier for me, and he's one of the better defensemen in the NHL, so he'll probably get a lot of prime times and team of the weeks to see some upgrades. I wouldn't invest in him really personally, but I could see why you would, especially early on. All right, next we've got the cover boy, the 86 overall TREVOR ZEGRAS. Now, at the time of your watching this, the new event has come out, and there is the 88 Spotlight version of TREVOR ZEGRAS, which does offer some usefulness to his X Factor card, meaning that you are going to get 2 more tiers unlocked, so you will be able to get TREVOR ZEGRAS up to 88. Here is the thing. His ability, skilled up, outside of maybe 5 people on the planet that actually actively use the lacrosse moves in-game effectively, and my co-host of my podcast is one of the best, if not the best in the world at doing it. He is maybe about a 5% success rate with it. So, again, a fun card. I think this would be one of the more fun cards to use. He's a good skater. He's got a decent shot. His hand stats are incredible. He is a pure winger, even though he is a centerman. He's got 78 on the draw, which is basically the minimum because they did bump up the centerman face-off abilities. Puck on a string, I'm not a huge fan of. And then he's an 86, meaning that he's a 65,000 overall coins for his 86 version. That means to get him up to 88, you're looking at like, almost 100,000 just to get him up there, when you could get his master set player item, and that's probably better because of the ability. Artemi Panarin is also in the B tier in my opinion. 5'11", 168. He has always been a lot like Mitch Marner cards for me, and again, nothing has really changed this year. He gets bumped off the puck extremely easily. Now, he does have one of the custom strides in game, which does make him, he does have 90 speed and acceleration, which is great. High shot, great hand stats, so he checks off all those boxes. At 86 overall, you're spending 65,000 to get him to tier 5, so that is a little bit more pricey. There is a lot of fast right-handed wingers, guys, so that's why Artemi Panarin is in the B tier. Kirill Kaprizov enters into the B tier at 86 overall. He doesn't really have any great, he really doesn't have any great synergy. Does have wheels, but he falls into that Kyle Connor kind of scenario where he has wheels, but he's only got 89 speed, which isn't bad. But again, remember, you're paying 65,000 to get him to his final tier, and speed only goes up by 0.5. So he doesn't, it's not like he has the speed of base Connor McDavid, for example, on that left-hand side, where I'd probably invest the coins trying to get base Connor McDavid over trying to upgrade Kirill Kaprizov. And again, speed only going up by 0.5 makes it a little rough. He is a pure winger, so he can't play center at all. So that's why he falls into the B tier. Adam Fox is kind of a sneaky, useful card, especially at launch of the game. Again, tape to tape, I think, is a useful ability, useless ability, especially for defensemen. Elite Edges is actually half decent on the back end, playing defense and with the puck. So just keep that in mind. I actually kind of enjoy that. He's got 90 speed, 91 acceleration. Shot is in the mid 80s for both accuracy and power, which is nice. He's got great hand stats. Body checking is only 80, so defensively he's going to have a hard time bumping people off the puck, but he's got decent defensive stats with defensive awareness and stick checking in the high 80s as well. 65,000 will get you up to 86. The reason why I think he's in the B tier is there is not a lot of great defensemen, again, especially the right-handed ones. I think the skating is kind of what separates him from John Carlson, but again, it depends who you've got on that left-hand side. Left-handed defensemen are very tough to come by, especially early on, so there is a lot more righties that have a little bit more viability. Speaking of left-handed defensemen, we've got Roman Josi, the 87 overall left-handed defenseman at 6'2". Does look like he is going to end up with a skating synergy, maybe even for speed as well. So he's got 90 acceleration if you get Spark activated. And if you throw Thief on him as well, he'll get a boost in defensive awareness, almost maxing it out. Send It is completely useless for defensemen, guys. If you don't understand why, I will show you in my gameplay tip videos, guys. You want to break the puck out by shooting it out, especially on the back end. Send It is almost pointless, so it really doesn't give you any added benefit here. It's the cost again, so it is going to cost a lot to now upgrade Roman Josi because he starts at an 87, so that's why he's in the B tier. Also in the B tier is the 87 overall Victor Hedman. I almost put him in the C tier because of his skating early on, but his 6'6" and the best defensive ability in Stick 'em Up, which is so useful, especially with the nerf to Pochex. You're able to basically use Pochex the way that you used to with Stick 'em Up being activated, as well as Shutdown. You're essentially not going to be able to get around Victor Hedman if you are playing him, playing someone that knows how to use him. His skating is brutal, and that is why the upgrades to Victor Hedman are awful. I would usually wait for a master set version or some other higher rated Victor Hedman as opposed to going with his X Factor, but you can't deny that his abilities are damn near perfect for him, so it makes him a really strong option. He's also one of the biggest, meaning that he is going to be able to bump people off the puck in the defensive zone. He's very useful, and if you pair him with Cale Makar or let's say Adam Fox, you're laughing. And then the last card in the B tier, we've got Sidney Crosby. Again, like I mentioned with Huberdeau, he is good at everything, but he is not great at anything. So he has got 89 speed, 89 acceleration, 89 shots, 89 hand stats, 89 defensive attributes as well. Backhand Beauty is a sneaky good ability, especially for the cost. There is a lot of wraps and abilities to throw the puck on net. Goaltenders have a hard time getting set with it, so this is actually a sneaky good zone ability. With Unstoppable Force, I think this is really strong as well. Again, it's the cost. You're spending 90,000. I would probably rather just use base Sidney Crosby or wait for a master set or a higher rated version as opposed to upgrading his X Factor card because, again, it is going to get quite costly quite quickly. All right, on to the A tier, guys. These are cards that I think have some pretty strong value if you are going to invest and use X-Factor players. He's got Gold Puck on a string and Ankle Breaker, which I don't think are all that great, but it isn't his abilities that make him a pretty strong option. It's left-handed wingers. There is not a ton of them compared to the right-handed side. 92 speed, 93 acceleration, and 86 overall, meaning when he gets to 87, you could see a bigger jump up into, up into the, 93, 94 range. His hand stats are basically maxed. He's got great offensive awareness. Even defensively, if you get some synergies activated on you can put him into the 90s as well. This is just a very strong card offensively, and I'm not gonna lie, his cuts and dekes feel better than his stats indicate every year. So Patrick Kane, not a bad option this year. Next up in the A tier is Auston Matthews, and unlike last year, he gets a skating synergy pretty early on, meaning that you can get him up to 90 speed right out of the gate. Now, this is going to be extremely expensive, but the reason why Matthews is valuable, in my opinion, is A, he is going to get really high-rated cards, and if he ever gets a Master Set player item where you can trade in the highest-rated Matthews, you're laughing. But he's 6'3", he's a great build for a centerman. He's got over 90 shot, and much like Kane and his hand stats, Auston Matthews' shot is almost automatic in Hockey Ultimate Team, so that is why he is in the A tier for me. I have his X Factor card on my one team, and I've just been using the base X Factor version, and he has been great for me, so, use that with what it is. His abilities are not all that special at all, but all around, very strong card. All right, moving on to the S tier X Factors. These are the best of the best, in my opinion, in terms of cost and value. We're going to start first with Matthew Barzal. Now, he's only 84 overall. He comes with Distributor, which can get his acceleration up to 92, but you'll see that his speed is at 93. He's got mid-80s shooting, which is not crazy, but that skating is incredible. It's only going to cost 20,000 coins to get to his final tier, and he's got elite edges, which is one of the best zone abilities that you can have in this game, and when you pair it with the fact that he is one of the fastest cards, the cost is super cheap even when he gets some upgrades, and he already got a prime time in the preseason, so that means that the first time that he has a decent game in NHL in the actual season, he will get an 85. He even has 81 on the draw if you have some synergies activated, which is actually usable. So all around, really, really strong card. This is one of the best X Factors you can get. And then we've got the left-handed version, essentially, in the 85, Dylan Larkin. Very, very useful card. So he's got gold wheels, which again, at over 90 speed is extremely useful, and silver elite edges. He's got 93 speed with Fly the Zone activated, 91 acceleration. Again, his shot is a little weak, but that will go up by 1 for every tier that he is upgraded. He's got 80 on the draw with the ability to get Thief, so if you want to bump that up a little bit and use him at center. He's also left-handed. Really strong option. He's cheap to get him to 85. It's only going to cost you 40,000 coins. Very, very useful card if you want to use him for even a couple months. At the 85, you'll be able to. Steven Stamkos is up next, just like last year. One of the better cards to use early on and really for most of the year. 92 speed, 92 acceleration. He's 6'1". He's got 82 on the draw, which will play. He's got 88 defensive awareness with Fly the Zone activated. Spinorama isn't all that useful, but 1T, that can play until you get up into the point where you've got a lot of APs activated, so you might not want to use it on a forward. Really, really good shot as well. And again, at 85 overall, it means it's not going to cost an absolute ton to get him there. Really, really strong option. One of the best. Cale Makar comes in at the S tier for a couple reasons. Now, he is not huge, which is usually a prerequisite to have an endgame defenseman. He's got elite edges, and again, that might be kind of hyper-focusing on only for forwards, but defensively, if you can make really good cuts, you can get back and forth and not get burned, especially when he's got one of the best accelerations in the game right out of the gate at 87 overall. 94 acceleration, 94 speed. His shot is in the mid-80s. His hand stats are above 90. His defensive awareness is 90 and 91 stick checking, which is great. Here is the big bonus for Cale Makar. Team of the Year, guys. If you don't know what Team of the Year is it happens on January 1st, roughly, and it is for the best players at each position in the last calendar year. Cale Makar is a slam dunk to get one of the defenseman spots, and why that is important is because if you have his X Factor all the way maxed out to whatever it is, and it will obviously be costly, you can then trade that in if it does work like prior years. So at one point, halfway through the year, you're going to get a card that will upgrade for free, that you can use Cale Makar without having to go to 99 and paying for that. So that is why I think Cale Makar is one of the best X Factor cards to get in this game. His teammate comes in next, the 88 overall, Nathan MacKinnon. And would you look at that, guys? We fixed face-offs for Nathan MacKinnon. I kicked and screamed for 2 years to give centerman in Hockey Ultimate Team an actual useful face-off rating, and they went ahead and did it finally. So, with Fly the Zone activated, he's got 95 speed, 93 acceleration, silver wheels, get an ankle breaker I'm not huge on, but silver wheels on someone with 95 speed is more than enough. He's not only just a winger anymore, you can play him at center, so you've got lineup flexibility here. Don't overthink it. The cost is expensive. There is a reason why he is one of the best cards already, and with Fly the Zone activated on his 88 overall card, you almost have endgame speed in October. So don't overthink it. This is a card to chase. And then lastly, the Mac Daddy of them all, Connor McDavid, the 88 overall at launch of the game. He's got gold wheels, 95 speed, 95 acceleration, 94 agility. He is the best skater. His accuracy is above 90s, hand stats in the mid-90s. He's got 83 on the draw, 86 defensive awareness. This is a card to chase. He is going to cost a ton to upgrade. To acquire him, it is going to be one of the most expensive cards for the first few months of the game. But if you can do some sets to get some untradeable X Factors, those choice packs, to try and get this card, this is one to do it for. He is a slam dunk for Team of the Year unless he gets hurt. That means that in January, early January, you're going to be able to trade him in at whatever his overall is so that you don't have to pay all the way up to the high 90s. Connor is the best. He is, even if you are avoiding X Factors, the one I would go all out for to make sure that I try it and grab. So guys, there you have my X Factor tier list. Again, make sure you use the cards you want to use. This is merely a guide for players if you are looking for some advice on ones that will play well and are worth it. In my opinion, I don't think any of the X Factors are worth it except for Connor McDavid and probably Cale Makar. That being said, if you want to take advantage of using these cards early on, I don't blame you. They are fun to use. Make sure you try out the ones that you want to go after. Again, leave any comments in the comments section down below. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, and make sure you subscribe for the most up-to-date NHL 23 content. See you next time. Have a good one.